The Galactic Federation had long ruled the stars. Stretching across countless systems, their empire was a mix of powerful species, each stronger than the last. Their warships were the stuff of legend, feared by every race in the galaxy. Power was unmatched, and they had never faced a threat that made them pause until today. The Federation's capital, located at the heart of the galaxy, buzzed with activity. In the Grand Council Hall, the Federation leaders sat together, watching a screen showing the coordinates of a distress signal. It came from a distant system, one that was not even on their charts. It wasn't far from a dangerous region of space known as the Dark Nebula, an area many avoided because of the strange occurrences around it. A few explorers had vanished there before, but this was different. This time it was an SOS. Someone needed help? Send our best fleet, ordered the Federation's Supreme Commander, a tall, blue-skinned alien with 4 eyes. We'll see what's going on. The call was heard by several of the Federation's finest fleets, each representing different species, each with a powerful warship. The ships departed, racing through space toward the unknown signal. They arrived in the system within a few days, unsure of what they would find. The fleet commander, Captain Joreth, a stern alien with glowing red eyes, took the lead. He scanned the area carefully. His heart skipped a beat when he saw something that shouldn't have been there. There, in the middle of a barren asteroid field, a strange ship floated. It was unlike anything the Federation had ever seen. It was huge, far larger than any of their warships, with strange markings across its black surface. The shape was angular, sharp, and intimidating. There were no signs of any other ships in the area, no signs of any space stations or colonies. Just this massive, menacing vessel. Captain Joreth felt a wave of unease. He ordered his fleet to remain in formation, but the unease in his chest grew stronger as the minutes ticked by. The ship didn't move, simply floated there, silent and unmoving. Joreth couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. "Sir," said one of his officers, a young alien with tentacles for arms, "we're getting a signal. It's coming from the ship." Joreth frowned. "Put it through." The screen flickered, and a voice came through the speakers, a human voice. The words were calm but firm, almost cold. "This is the USS Valiant. You are trespassing. Leave now, or we will engage." The Federation officers were stunned. They had never heard of a human ship so advanced. In fact, they had never seen a human ship at all, let alone one this large. Humans were supposed to be a primitive species, a young race struggling to survive on their small planet. Could they have such a powerful warship? Joreth hesitated. For a moment, his mind racing. The message had been clear, but what did it mean? Was this some kind of trap? Was the Federation being led into an ambush? "Open a channel," Joreth commanded. "Let's try to talk to them." There was a long pause. The Federation fleet waited, unsure of what would happen next. The strange ship didn't move, but the tension in the air was palpable. Then, the human. The voice came again. "This is your final warning. Depart immediately." Joreth's eyes narrowed. "This is Captain Joreth of the Galactic Federation. We have come in peace. We were responding to a distress signal." The voice didn't reply immediately. Then slowly, the human spoke again. "We don't need your help. Leave now, or we will defend ourselves." The Federation officers looked at each other in confusion. It was clear that the human ship didn't want them here, but why? What had happened to the distress signal? Why was a single human warship so powerful? "Captain," one of the officers said nervously, "what should we do? Should we retreat?" Joreth's mind raced. The humans weren't acting like a typical species. They weren't pleading for help. They weren't asking for anything. They were warning the Federation to leave, and the Federation was not used to being ignored, especially by a species as young as humans. "We will make contact with them." "Prepare for a communication attempt," Joreth ordered. "But keep your ships at a safe distance." The Federation fleet hung back, unsure of what to do. They had no idea how powerful this human warship was. The reputation of the Federation was built on the strength of their fleets, but this human ship was unlike anything they had ever encountered. It was too powerful, too strange. Suddenly, the ship's lights blinked. A warning alarm rang throughout the Federation ships. The human warship had fired, but it wasn't aimed at the Federation fleet. It was aimed at an asteroid in the field. The Federation fleet watched in horror as the asteroid shattered into millions of pieces, disintegrating instantly. The explosion rocked the surrounding space. The Federation ships were now on high alert. "Did you see that?" one officer whispered. They destroyed the asteroid with one shot. Jorath stood still, his mind working quickly. Retreat now. The command was urgent. The Federation fleet turned and fled, not knowing what kind of power they were facing. The human warship remained in place, as calm and silent as it had been before. It was as if it had only sent a message, a warning that no one had ever expected to receive. The Federation ships jumped into faster-than-light travel, racing back toward their safe zones, but the image of the human warship stayed with them. A ship unlike anything they had seen before. A ship that could destroy entire asteroids with a single shot. The aliens couldn't help but wonder if the humans had this kind of power, what else could they do? Back at the Federation's capital, word quickly spread of the encounter. Leaders, scientists, and military commanders met in secret, discussing the strange human warship and its terrifying abilities. How had humans built such a thing? And why had they never been on the Federation's radar before? The Federation's confidence had been shaken. For the first time in centuries, they were unsure of their place in the galaxy. One human warship had reminded them that the universe was full of surprises, and that there was always someone more powerful than you expected. As the news spread, fear began to take root among the alien species in the galaxy. They had long seen themselves as the dominant forces in the stars, but now they were afraid. The humans had shown them just how dangerous they could be. They were only getting started. The news of the human warship spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Every corner of the Federation, from the highest council halls to the smallest military outposts, buzzed with questions and fear. No one had expected humanity to be capable of building such a powerful warship, let alone be a threat to the Federation. Now, however, the galaxy's greatest empire was left with one simple fact. They had underestimated humans. In the Federation's capital, the Supreme Council convened. In an emergency session, the council room, a vast chamber with walls lined with holographic maps and alien symbols, was filled with tension. The leaders of the Federation's most powerful species sat around the central table, their faces grim. "How is this possible?" Supreme Commander Jorath asked, his voice steady but filled with concern. His 4 red eyes scanned the room, looking at the other leaders. How could a species so young develop a warship capable of destroying an entire asteroid with a single shot? An elder from the Talvar species, an ancient race known for their wisdom and calm demeanor, raised a hand. "It's clear that the humans have been hiding their true power. For years we believed they were a primitive species, barely able to explore their own system. But now we see they've been building something far more dangerous." Representative from the Velthians, a species known for their advanced technology, spoke next. "We have sent scouts to monitor their planets, but none of their ships were ever as advanced as this one. It's as if they've developed a warship overnight." The debate raged on. Some suggested that the human warship was an isolated incident, a one-off ship with no real support behind it. Others argued that humanity had far more power than anyone had imagined, and that they were a threat to the Federation's dominance. "We cannot let this go unchecked," the Supreme Commander said firmly. "We need to know how they built this ship, and more importantly, what they want." While the Federation's leaders argued on the other side of the galaxy, the human warship drifted quietly in the vast expanse of space. Its captain, a calm and collected officer named Captain Ethan Hawke, stood at the bridge, his arms crossed as he watched the distant stars. The crew, all human, were focused on their tasks, but there was an air of quiet confidence on the bridge. They knew that what they had just done, showing the Federation the true power of humanity's warship, was only the beginning. They had made their mark, and the galaxy would not soon forget it. "Captain," a young officer called out, breaking the silence. "We've received a transmission from the Federation. They're requesting communication. Captain Hawk nodded. Put it through. The screen flickered, and the face of Joreth, the Supreme Commander, appeared on the screen. His eyes glowed with intensity, but there was no trace of hostility in his voice. Instead, it was more a mix of curiosity and caution. Captain Hawk, I am Supreme Commander Joreth of the Galactic Federation, the alien began. I am sure you are aware that your warship has caused quite a stir in our ranks. We are not in the habit of being threatened, but we wish to understand your intentions. What do you want? Hawk looked at the screen, his expression calm and measured. We want nothing from you. Simply want to be left alone. Joreth's eyes narrowed slightly. You expect us to believe that? A warship of that? Power appears out of nowhere, and you expect us to think you're not a threat? Hawk's gaze never wavered. You saw what we are capable of. But we don't want war with you. We are simply defending ourselves, and we will do so if needed, but that's all. Stay out of our way, and there will be no conflict. Commander seemed to pause, as if processing Hawk's words. After a moment he replied, We will be watching. The Federation does not take threats lightly. Hawk nodded once. Then you know what to do. The transmission ended, and the screen went dark. A few moments of silence passed before Hawk spoke again, his voice calm yet full of purpose. Prepare. For anything, the Federation will not back down so easily. Back in the Federation's capital, the leaders discussed their next steps. The Federation fleet had already returned from the human encounter. Reports of the human warship's power were on every officer's lips. There was no denying the threat it posed. We cannot let them grow any stronger, a Velthian representative said, his voice urgent. If they have one ship like that, they may have more. We will not stop until they are the dominant force in the galaxy. But how do we stop them? A member of the Zalori, a race of giant armored aliens, asked. We've never faced anything like this before? Joreth stood up, his eyes glowing with resolve. We will send a larger force. Cannot risk letting them get too powerful. We need to strike before they are ready to strike us. Several of the other leaders nodded in agreement. A plan began to form in the council room, one that would send a fleet of the Federation's most advanced ships into human space. They would find the source of humanity's warship, and they would destroy it before humanity could do any more damage. The Federation had faced many enemies before, but none like this. They had always been the ones to decide the fate of the galaxy. But now, they were on the defensive. The Federation was not used to losing control. Meanwhile, on Earth, Captain Hawk stood at the bridge of the USS Valiant, staring at the stars. His mission had been clear, to show the Federation what humanity was capable of. But now, the stakes had risen. The Federation wouldn't back down, and that meant that humanity would have to be ready for war. Status report, Hawk ordered. Systems are online and fully functional, Captain, the officer at the communications station replied. The fleet is ready for deployment if needed. Hawk's mind raced. He had expected the Federation to react, but not so quickly. It was clear that they had underestimated humanity, just as the rest of the galaxy had. Now, it was up to him and his crew to show them the true might of the human race. We're not going to back down, Hawk muttered under his breath. We'll do whatever it takes to protect our people. The Federation had underestimated humanity, and now both sides stood on the brink of war. The Federation's fear of the human warship had ignited a chain of events that neither side could control. What started as a simple encounter had turned into a dangerous game of cat and mouse, where every move could mean the difference between peace and destruction. The galaxy would soon learn that humanity was no longer the weak, helpless species they had once thought them to be, and the Federation would have to decide, fight or negotiate. The choice was theirs, but time was running out. The days following the tense communication between Captain Hawk and the Federation were filled with uneasy silence. Both sides knew that a storm was coming, but no one was sure when it would hit. On Earth, Captain Hawk and his crew remained, prepared while the Federation scrambled to gather their forces, readying their most powerful warships for a strike against the human fleet. The Federation's fleet gathered in the depths of space, far from human eyes. Thousands of ships, from battleships to advanced cruisers, formed a massive armada. Each ship was a product of generations of technology and power, designed to crush any opposition. The Federation was confident that their strength would be enough to bring humanity to its knees. They had dealt with countless species before, and none had ever dared to challenge their dominance. The humans, it seemed, would be no different. But they were wrong. On the USS Valiant, Captain Hawk stared at the stars, his mind sharp and focused. He had received the Federation's warning, but he wasn't intimidated. The Federation ships were coming, and they thought they could overwhelm humanity. But they were about to learn that humans didn't just survive in the galaxy. They thrived, Captain, the communications officer said, breaking Hawk's concentration. We've detected a large fleet approaching the Federation. They're coming for us. Hawk stood, his expression calm. I know, it's time we show them what we can do. The Valiant had been designed for a mission just like this, to defend humanity against overwhelming odds. It was a ship unlike anything the Federation had ever seen, equipped with weapons capable of taking down entire fleets. But it wasn't just the firepower that made the Valiant dangerous. It was the crew. Every member had been trained for this moment, prepared to fight not just for their own survival, but for the future of humanity. Prepare the fleet, Hawk ordered. We'll meet them head-on. It's the human fleet, a small but powerful force, gathered. In the vast expanse of space, their ships were sleek and agile, built for speed and precision. Unlike the Federation's massive warships, the human fleet moved like shadows, barely detectable until it was too late. As the Federation fleet approached, the humans didn't wait. They had no intention of running. Instead, they launched a series of surprise strikes against the first wave of Federation ships, their weapons lighting up the dark void of space. The Valiant's cannons fired first, ripping through the shields of a Federation cruiser in a single shot. The Federation ships were caught off guard, their powerful weapons not prepared for the sudden onslaught. What just happened? Federation officer cried out in disbelief as their ship's systems flickered. The battle had begun, and the Federation quickly realized that they were not facing a weak species. They were facing a force that knew how. To fight a species that had spent years preparing for this very moment, the Federation quickly regrouped, launching their counterattack. Their ships fired massive energy blasts, trying to overpower the humans with sheer force. But the human fleet was faster, more maneuverable. The Valiant darted between blasts, its weapons firing in rapid succession, taking down Federation ships, one after another. It was like watching a predator hunt its prey, swift, deadly, and efficient. Captain Hawk stood at the bridge, his eyes fixed on the battle unfolding. He knew the Federation wouldn't back down easily, but he was prepared to fight for every inch of space. The Federation had underestimated them, but now they would see just how powerful humanity could be. We can't let them get close, Hawk said calmly, his voice steady as the battle raged on, maintained speed and fire at will. Don't let them. Regroup. As the battle continued, the Federation fleet found themselves on the defensive. Their once strong advantage in numbers was quickly eroded as human ships picked them off one by one. It wasn't just the firepower that made the difference, it was the human skill and determination. Despite the overwhelming odds, the humans fought with a fierce determination that the Federation had never encountered before. The Federation's ships, while technologically advanced, lacked the adaptability and resourcefulness of the human fleet. Every move the Federation made seemed to play right into the humans' hands. In the heat of the battle, one Federation ship, a massive dreadnought, tried to make a bold charge toward the Valiant, hoping to destroy it in a single blow. But the Valiant wasn't easily caught. The dreadnought fired its main cannon, a massive beam of energy that could have shattered the Valiant in an instant. But Hawk's ship was already moving, dodging the blast with incredible precision. The Federation ship's weapon missed, and in that split second, the Valiant retaliated, launching a volley of missiles that tore through the dreadnought's shields and tore the ship apart. Direct hit, Captain, the officer at the weapons station called out. The dreadnought is down. Federation fleet began to retreat. The once confident commanders of the Federation were now scrambling to regroup. They had been outplayed, outmaneuvered, and outmatched by the humans. The fear that had begun to take root in the galaxy now had a firm grip on the Federation's leadership. Report. Supreme Commander Jorith ordered from the command center of the Federation fleet, his voice grim. "We've lost 3 ships and several others are heavily damaged," an officer replied. "The humans are too fast. They're picking us off one by one. Can't get close to their ships." Sorath's red eyes flashed with anger and frustration. He had underestimated humanity. The battle had been harder than he ever imagined, and now the humans were winning. "We need to withdraw," Jorith said, his voice firm. "We've made our point. The Federation will not be defeated by a single human warship." But it was too late. The damage had already been done. The Federation fleet had been beaten, and the humans had proven that they were not a force to be taken lightly. As the Federation ships retreated, the human fleet remained in formation, their weapons still charged but no longer firing. The battle was over for now. The Federation had learned a painful lesson, and they would never forget what had happened here. Captain Hawk stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching as the Federation ships retreated into the distance. His crew remained silent, knowing that this victory was just the beginning. The galaxy had learned that humanity was not weak. Were not just survivors. They were a force to be reckoned with. "Prepare to return to Earth," Hawk said, his voice calm and controlled. "We've made our mark, but this war is far from over." The crew nodded, understanding the weight of his words. The Federation may have retreated for now, but they would be back, and when they returned, humanity would be ready. The galaxy would never be the same again. The Federation had lost its confidence, and the rest of the galaxy had seen the power of humanity's warship. Had started as a simple warning, had turned into a battle that would echo through the stars for centuries to come. The humans had shown the galaxy that they were no longer the weak species they had once been. They were strong, and they were not afraid to fight for their place in the galaxy. This part of the story shows the first real conflict between the Federation and humanity, with the Federation beginning to realize how dangerous humans really are. The battle sequence emphasizes humanity's strength and determination, keeping the pace fast and engaging. It's written in simple and basic English, while avoiding violated content, asked ChatGPT. The news of the human warship's victory over the Federation spread like wildfire across the galaxy. It wasn't just the Federation that was rattled. Every species, every empire that had once felt safe in their position began to worry. The humans had not only survived, but had proven themselves more than capable of standing up to the most powerful force in the galaxy, on Earth. Captain Hawk and his crew knew that their actions had made a significant impact. The Federation had retreated, but the galaxy had now seen the full extent of humanity's power. Their warship, the USS Valiant, was a symbol of that strength, but it was just the beginning. Hawk knew that this wasn't over. The Federation would return, and other empires would be curious, or worse. Hostile in the Federation's capital, the response was mixed. While many leaders were still in shock over the humans' unexpected success, some were already making plans to gather more information. They couldn't afford to let this human threat grow stronger. "We must understand how they built such a ship," said Jorith, his voice calm but urgent. "We cannot allow them to surpass us again." The Federation's intelligence division quickly set to work. Their best spies were sent to Earth, tasked with finding out how humanity had developed their powerful warship. But Earth, as the Federation soon discovered, was not an easy target for espionage. The humans had kept their technology well hidden, and any attempts to infiltrate their military had failed. There was no way to know for sure where the Valiant had come from, or how the humans had built such an advanced ship. Despite their best efforts, the Federation was no closer to discovering the truth. Human technology remained a mystery. It was clear now that the humans were not as primitive as they had once thought. In fact, they were more advanced than the Federation had ever imagined, and their warship was just one example of that. "Understand," said one of the Federation's top scientists, standing before a massive holographic display showing the wreckage of one of their destroyed ships. "This technology is beyond anything we've seen before. It's like nothing we have, and yet the humans, they built it." A fellow scientist, an alien with several tentacles for arms, nodded. We've examined the data from the battle. Their weapons are beyond anything we can comprehend. They can disable our shields in a single shot. How did they do it? The Federation's scientific community was in disarray. They had always prided themselves on their technological superiority, but now they found themselves scrambling to catch up. The humans, a species that had once been considered a primitive race, had suddenly become their greatest challenge. In a secure facility on Earth, Captain Hawk sat with his team reviewing the results of their recent mission. He knew that the Federation would be coming for them again. The battle had been only the first step in a much larger war that was inevitable. "Captain," said his chief engineer, a young woman named Sarah, "I've been running calculations on the Valiant systems. The way the ship's power core works, it's unlike anything we've ever seen before. Might have figured out how to make it work, but we don't know how to replicate it." Hawk nodded. "We'll keep it that way. Don't want to make it too easy for the Federation to catch up. If they get hold of our technology, they'll have the upper hand." Sarah's face grew more serious. "But we need to be ready. The Federation won't stop. And if they manage to crack our systems, we could lose everything. Then we make sure they never get the chance," Hawk replied. "We'll keep fighting no matter what." Across the galaxy, the Federation's plans were slowly taking shape. They knew they had to gather more information on humanity and its technology, but they were also aware that they could no longer underestimate the humans. The Federation began to take steps to fortify their defenses, preparing for a future war that might be inevitable. "We need a stronger fleet," Jorth said during a closed meeting with the Federation's High Council. "We must develop countermeasures to deal with the humans. If they can use their technology to destroy our ships, we need to be able to fight back." The Council was in agreement. The Federation would focus its resources on strengthening its military, but they also needed to understand humanity's power better. The humans had shown that they could outsmart the Federation, and that made them more dangerous than any alien species they had ever faced. "We will begin immediate research into human technology," the Council leader announced. "The Federation will not be caught off guard again." But even as they focused on their military buildup, other empires in the galaxy began to take notice. The humans had made a statement, and many saw it as a challenge. Some species were curious and wanted to learn from the humans, while others saw an opportunity to strike before humanity could grow even stronger. One of these species was the Creel, a race of giant insect-like creatures known for their cruelty and aggressiveness. They had heard of the humans' victory and saw it as a sign of weakness in the Federation. The Creel were determined to find the humans and test their strength. If the Federation was afraid of the humans, the Creel believed they could take advantage of the situation. "We'll find them," the Creel leader hissed to his advisors. "The humans think they are powerful, but we will show them what true strength is." The Creel began their search, sending scouts to locate human colonies. They were confident that they could defeat the humans, but what they didn't know was that humanity was ready. They had learned the lessons of the Federation's attack and had already begun fortifying their defenses. The Creel would soon realize that they had underestimated the humans as well. Back on Earth, Captain Hawk was preparing for the next phase of humanity's fight. The Federation wasn't the only threat they had to worry about. The Creel were coming, and soon, other empires would take their turn. "We'd have to be ready for anything," Hawk said to his crew. "The Federation won't stop, and the Creel are coming for us, but we have something they don't: unity. The humans will stand together, and we will protect our world." As he spoke, his crew nodded in agreement. The battle for the galaxy was far from over, and the humans had made their first mark on the stars. They would fight with everything they had. They would not back down. The Federation's fear of humanity was growing, and with good reason. The humans had shown them that they were not the weak species the galaxy had once thought. Their warship, their technology, and their resolve were far stronger than anyone had ever imagined. And as the Creel began their search for humanity, it became clear that the galaxy was about to enter a new era. The humans had proven they were not to be underestimated, and the galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength was not their warships or technology, but their determination to protect their own. The Federation, the Creel, and every other empire in the galaxy would soon learn that humans were a force to be reckoned with. In this part, the Federation struggles to understand how humanity built such a powerful warship while the Creel prepare to challenge the humans. Captain Hawk and his crew prepare for what's to come, knowing the Federation won't be the only enemy they face. The tension between humanity and the other empires builds as the galaxy braces for more conflict. Story remains engaging, with simple language and no violated content. The galaxy was changing. The humans had shown their strength in a way that no one had ever expected. They had defeated the Federation's finest warships, and their victory had shaken every corner of the galaxy. The Federation, once the most powerful force in the stars, now found itself in a position it had never been in before, on the defensive. News of the humans' warship, the USS Valiant, and its incredible firepower had spread like wildfire. Every species, from the powerful Velthians to the fearsome Creel, began to take notice. The humans had proven that they were not a primitive species, as many had thought, but a force to be reckoned with. On Earth, Captain Hawk stood before his crew, watching the stars on the bridge of the Valiant. He could feel the weight of the future on his shoulders. The Federation had retreated once, but he knew it wouldn't be the last time. The galaxy was full of powerful enemies, and they would all want to test the strength of humanity's warship. "Captain," said his first officer, a tall woman named Lieutenant Kala, her face serious. "We've detected another fleet. It's not Federation this time." Hawk turned, his expression calm but filled with determination. "Who is it?" the Creel Kala replied. "They've been gathering intelligence on us. We believe they're preparing for an attack." Hawk nodded. He had expected this. The Creel, a fierce insect-like species, were known for their aggressive nature. They had been watching humanity from the shadows, waiting for the right moment. "To strike, we can't let them catch us off guard," Hawk said. "Prepare the fleet. We need to be ready for anything." On the other side of the galaxy, the Creel were preparing for their attack. The Creel leader, a massive creature named Crawl, stood at the front of a large command center, his eyes glowing with anticipation. The species had long been feared for their ruthlessness in battle, and they saw the humans as a threat that needed to be eliminated. "We have watched them long enough," Crawl hissed, his voice low and menacing. "They think they are powerful, but we will show them the true meaning of strength. They will regret crossing us." His generals, large insectoid creatures with razor-sharp mandibles, nodded in agreement. The Creel had no intention of letting the humans continue to grow stronger. They had learned of the Valiant's power, and they believed that if they could destroy it, they could crush humanity's hope of ever becoming a dominant force in the galaxy. "We strike now," Creel ordered. "Prepare the fleet. We will wipe them out before they have a chance to react." The Creel fleet, vast and terrifying, moved swiftly through the stars. They were heading straight for Earth, where they believed the humans were weakest. They didn't know that humanity had already begun preparing for them. Back on Earth, Captain Hawk and his crew were readying the Valiant for the upcoming battle. The humans had learned from their past encounters and were not about to make the same mistakes. They knew the Creel were coming, and they would not be caught off guard. "All ships are ready, Captain," Kala said, her voice steady as she watched the crew work. "We've fortified the planet's defenses. The Creel won't get close without a fight." Hawk nodded. "Good. Let's give them the fight they've been asking for." The human fleet, though smaller than the Creel's, was made up of highly advanced ships designed for speed and precision. The Valiant was at the heart of this fleet, and its firepower was unmatched. The humans knew that the Creel would underestimate them, just as the Federation had. But this time they would be ready to show the Creel that they had underestimated the wrong species. As the human fleet prepared to face the Creel, tension filled the air. The crew of the Valiant knew that this would be one of the most dangerous battles humanity had ever fought. The Creel were fierce and ruthless. They would not hesitate to destroy everything in their path. The Creel fleet arrived in human space, its massive ships filling the sky. The insects aboard the ships were eager for battle, their sharp mandibles clicking in excitement. They saw Earth, a planet they had never bothered to care about before, as their next conquest. The humans had dared to challenge the Federation, and now they would pay the price. "We've arrived," Krell hissed, his voice filled with satisfaction. "Attack! Destroy them all!" The Creel fleet launched a massive assault, their ships charging toward Earth with incredible speed. The human fleet responded immediately, moving into position and preparing to fight. The battle was about to begin. As the Creel ships closed in on Earth, Captain Hawk gave the order to fire. The Valiant's weapons lit up the dark space, sending powerful energy blasts toward the Creel ships. The battle was fierce, with explosions lighting up the sky as the two fleets clashed. "We're outnumbered," Lieutenant Calla said, her voice tense. "But we're not outgunned. Keep fighting." The Valiant and the human fleet moved with precision, their ships darting around the larger Creel vessels. The Creel ships were massive and powerful, but they were also slow and cumbersome. The human ships, on the other hand, were fast and agile, able to avoid most of the Creel's attacks while delivering precise strikes. Captain Hawk watched as one of the Creel ships exploded, torn apart by the Valiant's weapons. It was a victory, but Hawk knew the battle was far from over. The Creel were relentless, and they had no intention of giving up. The human fleet would have to fight with everything they had. The battle raged on for hours. Ships exploded there, wreckage floating in space as the two sides clashed with everything they had. The Creel tried to overwhelm the humans with sheer numbers, but the humans fought back with strategy and skill. Each ship was carefully coordinated, each strike designed to weaken the enemy and create an opening for the next attack. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the Creel began to retreat. Their fleet had suffered heavy losses, and they knew they could not win. The humans had proven themselves too strong, too skilled, and too determined to be defeated. Krell, watching from his flagship, growled in frustration. "We will return," he hissed. "The humans will fall. This is not over." The Creel fleet retreated into the depths of space, leaving the humans victorious for now. But Hawk knew that this was just the beginning. The Federation had already retreated once, but they would be back. And now the Creel knew the power humanity possessed. As the battle ended, Captain Hawk stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching the stars once again. The human fleet had won, but the galaxy was far from safe. The Federation, the Creel, and countless other species would soon learn that humanity was not to be underestimated. "We've proven ourselves," Hawk said quietly, his voice filled with pride. "But the fight isn't over. We have to be ready for whatever comes next." His crew nodded in agreement. Humanity had made its mark on the galaxy, but the galaxy had also taken notice. The war for control of the stars was far from over, and the humans had just begun to show what they were capable of.